Hey everybody, I'm doing another video, this time covering the changes to Blades of Khorne. This video is probably going to be equally as long as the KO one. Honestly, we're going to focus more on the AOR, I think, because the AOR is very problematic for the game. But I'm going to try to cover, obviously, changes and core concept of, like, not specifically lists design in terms of generalized Khorne, but I am going to start talking about the AOR specifically because, yeah, it's very problematic. Anyway, let's just jump right into it because it's going to be a long one. So the major changes to Khorne, war scroll changes a little bit here and there, not too much drastic ones. But the big changes is how the army rules operate. So now there is still a kind of this like flow of the game army faction rules where you still want to generate blood type, you still want to like kill things and things need to die, and you get these rules. The problem, I think personally, most of the rules are very good in terms of army rules. There's just the tempo of how they get resolved is problematic. Okay, we'll go first with Blood-drenched rule. Blood-drenched is basically if both you and your opponent have lost half your army, the Blades of Khorne player get these rules, and they're very powerful. Like the mortals get crit mortal, the demons get +1 rend, and the monster demons get +1 damage. They're very good. Now, the downside if you do this is you no longer get positive modifier for your save rolls. Not, I think that matters a little bit less. I think Blood Warriors really, maybe Bloodthirsters are probably the only ones who care. But the boon you get from this rule is massive, and it's very powerful. Now, the issue is you'll probably notice it requires both you and your opponent to lose half your units. That's a bit of a problem, especially since it doesn't trigger immediately when both half units are died. It triggers in the next zero phase of that sequence of events, and I think that's like, let's just be realistic about how the game plays. I think it's probably unlikely that triggers early in the game, like I'm gonna say like turn 1 or 2, probably won't turn into turn 3 or 4, but at that point you've lost half your units. Do half your units really, like, can the other half the units really be significant of these buffs enough to like beat your opponent? And it still requires you of killing your half your opponent's units. I think like great design in terms of like approach. I think just terrible timing execution. Like, this thing should like trigger immediately when that criteria is met, not in the next zero phase. Because let's assume you're playing the game and you get to like, if your opponent is like slightly more conservative with his resources and you're trying to just basically push forward to because that's what Khorne does, and the army is really designed around more of that mechanic and less into the control element, more about killing things. Let's say you do achieve it on bottom of 2, it won't be active until turn 3, and you technically only have half your. I don't know, like the timing is weird for me. It's just the rule is great, the timing is weird. Thankfully, there's a prayer that kind of fixes that problem, and we'll talk about it later. But like right out of the gate, powerful mechanic, timing's just a little funky, and you'll notice it's a pattern because even in the blood type mechanic, the timing is still weird. I won't go too much into all of the blood type rules because it's kind of like what matters for you guys to know is that you got a blood type one for every time something dies. But you can only unlock a tier or a new one at the start of the battle round. So you really only have, when you think about it, 4 opportunities to unlock one of these because you can only do it starting from turn 2. You can only do it from turn 3 at the start of the battle round, and so forth and so forth. But here's the reality, though. Most players do not engage on turn 1 or try to prevent engagement on turn 1, especially if they know how Khorne plays. So Khorne doesn't get any blood type anymore passively. Well, there is still a way, but we'll go into it later. It's just much more problematic. Khorne doesn't generally passively get blood type now, so you really are probably not even going to get 1 on turn 1 unless you like sacrifice a unit, and this is where it's going to come into play by either feeding it to your opponent or killing it yourself. Either way, it's very hard to generate a Blood Tithe if passively. And even if you don't generate a Blood Tithe from Battle Round 1, you cannot unlock Divine Scorn and Punish the Pacifist until Battle Round 3. And that's the problem. So, Battle Round 3, let's say you unlock Divine Scorn and Punish Pacifist. Battle Round 4, you can unlock the next year. Battle 5, you can unlock the next year. But the point is, Battle Round 5 for benefiting from the last ones is like, at that point, like, the game's doesn't really matter. Like, so I get that they wanted to slow and not front load these rules, but this is just way too slow. That's just way too slow. This should have been changed to basically in the hero phase. You get to basically, if you have the Blood Tithe, you can unlock the next tier. It's just way too slow to really be useful. Once again, thankfully, there's a kind of a pseudo way around that, and we'll talk about it later. And on how to passively generate Blood Tithe, but it's just not it's just not great. Murderlust, obviously the big voodoo scary man from the previous edition, got changed drastically, and it was leaked on the Warhammer website, or they reviewed it as well. You basically get a 3d6 charge. You pick 2 highest, and then if you you pick D3 mortal wounds in doing it. Right. Cool. It's gonna work towards your passive killing things, by the way. Anyway, not gonna go over all the other Blood Tithes. They're all pretty much like interesting. I think the anti-wizard path is not as interesting as the other path, but it's all the rules are pretty good, and if you can actually unlock them, that's the other huge issue. It's just like it doesn't. So for me personally, guys, is I don't want to cover them because the reality is like, the rule is written in a way where it's almost impossible to unlock the last tiers, or at least by the time you unlock them, it's like too late for the game for them to matter. So yeah, whatever. I mean, we'll talk about them when we get to the manifestation, which is important. But like for the most part, like I think this was a huge, like the timing on both of these abilities is just way too restrictive. Like you're basically playing your army in the first half of the game with none of these rules. It's really what it comes down to. And then the battle formations are for the most part untouched. Like there's still they added there's still the soggy ones you can take, which are still good. I think Khorne Legion is still very good if you want to play Demon and Mortals. And then it's just it hasn't really changed that much, right? I do like the Brass Stampede changes from the previous index. One, the problem is that the Cavalry in Khorne is, I'm gonna use some French words here, fucking terrible. So like, we're not gonna go over Brass Stampede. I don't know why the Khorne Cavalry is so fucking awful. All right. Alright, now we're going to go into the actual like meat and potatoes of the army faction, which is the artifacts and heroic traits. This is all very interesting and good, like Magical Scorn I actually really like on the Bloodthirster, especially World of Zoroastra. Like giving her -1 to chanting roll means that like she can fail her stupid teleport mechanic because she fails on a 2 instead of a 1 unless she has visual points. The Skull Collector is also very fun on the Bloodthirster. Like these two just feel very fun on Bloodthirsters. The problem is you need to find a way to generate passive Blood Tithe, so you're probably going to take the Fancy Tithe Massacre. You'll see a pattern. I'm going to talk about this multiple times. You want to be able to murder your own units without your opponent doing something about it on turn 1. Because you want to start the Blood Tithe clock as soon as possible. You don't want to wait for your opponent to kill something. So what ends up happening is you're going like it, and there's two reasons as to why. A, yes, it gets you the Blood Tithe early, so you can start going down the tree. But also, if your opponent knows that you can generate passive Blood Tithe, he's not going to play passively. He's going to be like, well, if you can generate a passive Blood Tithe, I'm just going to engage you, which is what you want in the first place, because you need to kill half your units and half of his. So if your opponent knows you can generate passive Blood Tithe, they're not going to care about like trying to be cagey. They're just going to play the game, which is what you want them to do for Blood-drenched. So like that's the issue, like fundamental issue of the army is like you have to kill your own shit for people to want to kill your shit so you can kill their shit. It's very dumb. Not dumb from a design perspective. I think it's cool, but it's dumb from a like, why did you make this very convoluted? So like you're basically trying to incentivize them from playing the game, but if by incentivizing from playing the game, you're making your stuff better. The timing still kind of sucks on everything, but at least like, alright, so Frenzy Taskmaster, I'll go over the detail. You basically get to pick a blade of Khorne infantry or cavalry unit with this combat range, and it's not in combat. They get to move D6 during your movement phase, but they cannot end that move in combat. And they can, if they end that move in the combat range of the person, the heroic trait, they take, the mortal wounds based on the number of the inches you added. So potentially D1 to 6 mortal wounds on a unit. Fantastic. So you're going to use it to move a unit, so you stay in combat, so you do D1 to 6 mortal wounds to it. All right, we're good there. We're starting damage. We're starting to kill our own unit. We're doing great. Then we got Murderous Artifacts. Obviously, Argav, the King of Blades, is still very good for a Bloodthirster or whatever. Just being able to pick up and kill, like remove a ward of heroes. Like most of the time, the significant wards are on the big monster heroes. So still very good. Is it better than the other two? Yeah, pretty much is. I wish the Call of Contempt was more written to say that if the person can already use an Unbind, it's like, here's kind of the issue. Like you can't really put the Call of Contempt on a Slaughter Priest because it doesn't actually give him an extra Unbind. Like that's the issue. Like so, this only ever does D3 mortal wounds to whatever you like one wizard if you successfully Unbind. You don't get extra Unbinds, and that's kind of the problem. Because ideally, I want to be able to maximize the value of this by putting in a hero that can Unbind multiple times, and this doesn't do that. So it's meh. Yeah, like the Butcher's Blade is kind of interesting because I wish it. See, the problem is it doesn't work off the D Thirster, the big axe Thirster, like exploding mortal wounds. I don't know, like it's just like they made like Argav is still like vastly superior for like it might be more niche, but like it's like the upside from this is so much better than the other ones. Now we're getting to good stuff. The lore's got rewritten completely. Prayer lores. The unlimited lore is very good. Basically, it gives you the ability to give one of your units the Blood-drenched ability. Which is what we want. We want to give crit mortals to mortals, and we want to give +1 damage to Bloodthirsters, and we want to give +1 rend to our demon units. Very good. Now, you still suffer from the no positive save, unless the prayer rolls on an 8. And that matters really for one unit, and that's Blood Warriors for the most part, maybe Skull Reapers. Everybody else, you're like, I don't really care. Like, if it's on Blood Letters, you're like, you don't really care about the blood. Like, all the defensing. Like, it's not as important, right? So, this prayer really solves like your ability to push the Blood-drenched, which is fundamentally the important rule of the army. Is the Blood-drenched rule. All of the blood type stuff is cool and it's good, but like really the Blood-drenched is what makes the things, especially for the mortals. Like the crit mortal wounds on the mortals is like what makes them like very scary. Like a block of 20 Blood Warriors with like crit mortal is terrifying. Like you should be terrified of that unit. Blood Boil. Anti-Horde with an upside of -1 to wound. I don't think it's fine. The final act of vengeance. So this is important because they removed that murder roll check on Blood Warriors. It's gone. They don't no longer have it. But now you have a way to give it to other units with this prayer. And I think it's super important because the Blood Letters benefiting, like a block of 20 Blood Letters benefiting from this prayer, with especially if you manage to get the 8+ roll on it, is quite good actually, because Blood Letters, unlike Blood Warriors, actually die much faster, and so you can get a little bit more value very quickly with them. So I don't know. It's still like these two prayers are very good. I like Final Act of Vengeance on Blood Letters more than I like it on the other units, but you know, at one other point, most of your priests are going to be doing Uncontrollable Rage anyway. So. Now, in terms of manifestations, I wish the Hexorcist Rolls did something more interesting. like they would get unbind attempts or something, because they're like still very sad. Should we go to the scrolls themselves instead of like watching their, let's see where, scrolls, there we go. Like, just -1 to casting rolls for the wizard is meh. And it doesn't even do damage like anymore to like wizards trying to do things. The Primal Profiles is meh. Like, it's really just useful for like as a move blocker or like teleport blocker, more than anything. It's just, I wish it did something more interesting. The Rafax, like in terms of like output, like didn't really change much, and it lost its mortal wound trigger. I don't know if the Hatred's Edge is super interesting. At least the one nice thing is, like, unlike the Deathbringer mechanic, you just need to roll an 8+ to remove one model. So against like single model units, it can be very, very scary, right? Because they don't care what the wound characteristic. They don't have to beat it. They just have to roll an 8+. So, like, I can see the axe being much more significant in terms of impact on the game, but it's oh wait, no, I'm sorry, it's limit. You can't pick starting size more than one. Lol, terrible. This thing is so bad. It's still bad, guys. Sorry, it's still bad. The worst part is I was describing it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that has a limit. Or maybe the Deathbringer does, and I just forgot that it's like in there. So it's pretty bad. The bleeding icon is really the manifestation you're going to care about. So the bleeding icon, what it does is it lets you pick one of the Blood Tithe mechanic that you have not unlocked and unlock it on one unit, but you have to roll the Blood Tithe cost. You roll 8 dice. Sorry. You roll dice. If the roll equals to or exceeds the Blood Tithe point cost of the chosen ability, you get an unlock. And hi Archie, coming to say hello to me on video. Sorry. But let's just notice my little doggy boy and buddy. So the most important thing about it is it's like, you're going to use it to try to get the last tier, because it's on a 4 through 6, right? You would basically unlock the last tier on a unit. And obviously you want the +1 attack most of the time. You're going to want the +1 attack Slayer Triumphant mechanic. So coin toss, you get the prayer out, you have a coin toss, so like get this, and you could obviously some Revel in Battle is also very good if you're going to receive a charge on Blood Warriors, like removing combat abilities from affecting them other than companion weapons is very good. So I think there is ways to benefit from this mechanic without actually using this mechanic, and that's very significant. But it also requires you to take mostly kind of front loading on Priest, which you're going to end up doing anyway, because we're going to keep going about how you're supposed to take damage. I'm going to go back to the Bloodthirsters in a second. Like, I'll just cover like how you generate passive damage in this army. So Jeremy, how do you generate passive damage to generate a Blood Tithe? Well, my good sir, you find a way to find like either a cheap unit of low wounds to kill by doing the Taskmaster mechanic. So like, for example, the Claws of Karanak. You are 8 wounds for 100 points, and if you Taskmaster them, take D6 mortal wounds, and then if you have this magnificent gentleman over here, he can pick them and during the hero phase, and they take 3 damage points, so no wards, and so that's like 3 more damage, and then now you get a power level 2 priest, and we talked about like how you want to do the prayers, and that power level 2 priest is important because you get to roll dice for ritual points and then roll for the big prayer you're looking to actually push. So it's quite good. So this is one passive way of generating damage on a unit. And then the ritual sacrifice from the Slaughter Priest also kind of pseudo does this. You can pick a friendly or enemy unit with combat range, and this happens every hero phase. And on a 2-up, they take like that many mortal wounds, and this guy gets a ritual point. So like, high value, you want to be able to farm damage on these units, and that's how you basically do it. There's also, you can take the Dark Oath ROR, Singri, or whatever his name is, and then since the Mounted Lady, Singri, only has 4 wounds, since this is friendly units and not Blades of Khorne, you can do it, get 3 damage to her with one of them, and she only has 4 wounds, and then you can blood sacrifice her with this as well, and then potentially push the damage through to get your Blood Tithe point very easily. You could do it the Taskmaster heroic trait only works on Blades of Khorne units, so it's useful for against with like either like the Blood Reavers, which are 10 wounds for 90 points, or 8 wounds on 100 points with Claws of Karanak. And that gives you like, I think like it gives you ability to generate passive Blood Tithe, at least one. You really only need one, right? Because you want to start the clock. You need to be on turn to being able to pick Punish the Pacifist or Divine Scorn immediately, and that's like how you would basically generate passive Blood Tithe, right? At least one. You need to find a way to generate one passive Blood Tithe without your opponent doing anything. Now, I'm recording this video, and there's been no FAQ on it, and I'm guessing they're not going to let you keep doing that later. I'm guessing they never like when armies design, like, incentivizes players to kill their own stuff to get bonuses, so I don't think that's going to stick around. But right now, that's the only way to generate passive Blood Tithe, other than letting, moving Claws of Karanak 8-inch forward, moving them again, and then 3d6 charge of Murderlust taking their 3d3 damage, and then, like, try to charge something, they automatically die, like, and your opponent's army. Like, there's no other real way to do it, and that might be the only way going forward, because that might be the other thing. At least a nice thing about also the Murderlust mechanic, since you can declare charges at a 12, you can technically declare charges you can't succeed and take the extra d3 mortal wounds. So once again, like, to try to push that passive damage into your army to get the Blood Tithe. So let's talk about the actual fun stuff, the actual rules of the army that matter the most, right? So we got Scarbrand first. Hasn't really changed. Still slaps. It's got to slap a little bit harder now that Slaughter will get potentially 1+1 damage. He is his own ROR, so you can take him in other armies, which I think is hilarious. Scarbrand does Scarbrand things. Scarbrand. He is kind of funny with the Murderlust. I don't know how he interacts with Murderlust at all, because he already rolls 3d6. Like, you roll an extra dice in this charge. I don't know, but he's still very scary. You don't want to screw with Scarbrand. Now we get to the actual Bloodthirsters that do things. Okay, so this is the Wrath of Khorne. This is the Bloodthirster that used to only buff other Bloodthirsters, right? That was what his main mechanic did. Now it buffs any Khorne demon units that's on unique for +1 attack, and that's super relevant because I think there's an argument for him to be made of like 20 Bloodletters now that he buffs their attack profile, and that's really good. It doesn't have any range either, just as long as you can see them. And he's still a Bloodthirster, so he still slaps pretty hard. Keep in mind, like, we'll probably notice, guys, like, you don't get any recursion anymore in Khorne. Like, there's no more, like, once a Bloodthirster's dead, he's dead. He dead. He ain't coming back. But I think this guy is quite good. He's also the perfect delivery system for the Blade of Argath, because he's already anti-hero. He has +1 hit rolls target an enemy hero, so, like, he's your perfect, like, anti-hero guy, and the Blades of Argath just makes him better at that. And you have to be legit scared of Bloodthirster, because, Murderlust gives them the ability to really get into combat very fast, so, yeah, it's quite good. The Deaththirster really hasn't changed. Now that you get up to 6 damage instead of 5 with Blood Hungry mechanic. He's just, still fantastic. You're probably going to see a little bit less of him, I think. Because if you're playing a demon army, you're probably taking this guy and the Bloodthirster of Unfettered Fury, because you want the 3d6 charge. You pick it in the movement phase now. Interesting. Either way, it's really good because you basically gets you your Bloodletters are once again. I wonder how that works for murder roll for 1 additional line maximum to discard 1 dice of your choice. I wonder how that works for Murderlust. You roll 4 dice and discard 2. Either way, like, being able to, like, I think he's very good into the both of them are synergized very well with, like, the rest of the demon army. And then he's anti-monster, right? So, like, I think, like, that's the big important part. Also, being able to, like, whip the Bloodletters into, like, moving forward with, like, the Taskmaster is also really nice. You can make, like, super fast, like, Khorne demon army, I think. The problem is, I think the battle formations for only demons are, like, not that the most interesting things, but we'll talk more about it in a second. Then we get to the small hero. Skulltaker had a very big glow up. mostly in the sense that now he has this really interesting mechanic where if an enemy hero fought at any point, he once per game can teleport to that enemy hero at the end of the turn, but he can only he teleports in combat with that hero, but he can't be within combat range of any other enemy units. So that gets interesting on like the big base hero. I can see this as like mostly being used to disrupt like big melee heroes that you don't like. You can basically lock them for a turn if they win. Like if you're trying to set up a way where, oh cool, like you might win a double. Well, if you do win a double, like let's just like an Archeon type, and then you can't fight because you're stuck fighting this Skull Reaper, Skull Taker. Like I don't know, there's some upside value into him. And then he gets to heal for full now, basically, if he destroys an heal X, where X is the number of damage when this unit has. Yeah, so it just heals for full against if it kills a hero. Like his profile's pretty good. Like I don't know, he had quite a glow up. I think the Skull Reaper is much more interesting. He's still like a way for Coordinate Legion to get strike first on the mortal unit, because if he's in combat of an enemy hero, he gets strike first. As long as he swings everything into that hero. But then with Coordinate Legion, because he strikes first, he can make another unit, a mortal unit of 12 strike out of sequence. So in that sense, like he's still very interesting for like even mortals and demon armies. The Bloodmaster, I don't know how I feel about his change. I mean, for the most part, like he's slappier now, because he gets crit 2 hits instead of crit mortals. And then when you get to Blood Hungry status, he's Rend 3. So like he's quite fighty. The downside of his mechanic, though, I mean, he's also priest, which is really good. But like he used to make the Bloodletters minus reduce ward against whatever they fought when they swing Simo with him. But now it's they just +1 to hit, which is not the worst, right? So, +1 to hit without attacking is nice, but I kind of miss having the ward modification, because that's really like the Bloodletters are pretty slappy themselves, right? Like they're gonna be 2 attacks, 3s and 3s around 1 damage, crit mortal. And now that the Bloodthirster can give them +1 attack, they go up to 3 attacks. So like 3 attacks on a block of 20 is like terrifying. And if you give them the prayer, they're +1 Ren. If you give them the icon buff, they're another +1 attack. They can go up to 4 attacks. Like they just hit really hard. And then if you also give them the stupid prayer where they do mortal wounds on death, like they're gonna hit hard. And I think the ward saves are the only thing that made them like slightly like where they can't just punch their way out of something consistently. But in reality, like I think it's probably overkill. Like if you get to a state where you have 4 attacks on them, like you're probably picking up whatever you're swinging into, especially if they're hitting on 2s, right? And then they're Rend 2, so like maybe it's fine. Like they can be very scary, but like stacking all these rules on them is like not gonna be consistently happening, right? They also lost their recursion mechanic where they used to bring back D3 models in the end of every turn. Now they can just get this free 3-inch movement in any combat phase as long as they're starting that move in combat, and they have to end in combat. It's nice. It gets you to maximize your swings because a 20-man block can be unwieldy on 32 mil build bases. I don't necessarily think it's, I'm going to miss the recursion, I think, more than this, but I don't hate it. It's fine. So Blood Crushers. New Blood Crushers. This is not the Sagi one. This is the new one in the book. They gain an attack on the rider, I believe, and then the Juggernauts are still companions for some reason. Why are Juggernauts companions, Games Workshop? They're literal demons. Why do you think they're dumb beast? Like, makes no sense to me. Also, I'm pretty sure Juggernauts are sentient. But anyway, like, I don't know, like, guys, every time I look at this Cavalry unit, I'm like, doesn't really hit that hard. It's not. I mean, I think it gained 2-inch of movement, right? They used to be movement 8, so they got a little bit faster, but they don't really hit that hard. You could argue they're tanky, but like they still don't hit that hard. So for cavalry units that want to basically be shocked army, like they don't. Yeah, I don't know. They don't. It's not great. I don't know. Like even if the Blood Hungry going up to Rend 2 and then you can give them +1 attack on there, at least there's the riders. Like 4 attacks potentially with like I don't know. It's still, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to play more. I need to try a 6-man block to see how it feels. It's just like it doesn't feel super like I would say like I mean I'm also basing this off like when you see cavalry in the game, it's like Vanguard, Chaos Warriors, right? Or sorry, Chaos Knights, like or like they're they kind of slap. These don't, like, at face value, don't look like they slap at all. I'm not gonna bother going over the skull cannon. They basically didn't change him at all, and honestly, they really need to like go back to the drawing board of this unit. Like, I just don't think it does anything of interest. Karanak, for the most part, didn't change either. I think he's really good. The reason I really like him, you can do this really funny synergy with Skull Taker, because one of the problems with the passive, if you want to use Skull Taker to like snipe out like those nuisance heroes you can't get to because they're hiding in the corner, you can kind of do it with like Karanak, because you can basically always you can teleport, you can remove this unit and your dogs, and then teleport near the hero, and then charge, and it's very consistent charges, and that way you force this hero to fight, and then that way you can teleport Skull Taker to their position, right? If they're assuming the hero survives, right? But like that's I kind of like the Karanak Skull Taker synergy, because they kind of like help them itself. Like Karanak lets you teleport Skull Taker to things, right? That's basically that. It sounds like probably too cute to be good, but it's fun. I love that they made Flesh-Ons back to like doing things against wizards, especially the fact that against Zorestra, an Anima Fight 2 fails the prayer. You don't understand how massive that is. Because in the cities matchup, like Zorestra's teleportation is going to be such a nuisance for the Khorne, especially with the cannonless, and then having the fact that it can literally fail 1/6 at a time now, instead of only failing like an obscure amount of times, like an insignificant amount of time, is very good. They do benefit from Blood Hungry. I believe Blood Hungry for specific demon says that it affects companion weapons. So, oh wait, does it affect them as well? No, see, the fucking Juggernauts don't even have Blood Hungry. It does at least affect the Flesh-Ons, so they will get to Red 1. I don't know if that's that exciting, but it's just something to keep in mind of. I do like. I think a unit of 5 is going to be great, especially if these guys like. If you can get the crit mortal prayer off on Closet Karanak, and they're nearby, like Karanak or Flesh-Hounds, this unit slaps. Like, it just hits really hard. Now, granted, it's fragile as hell, but like just one unit, you get a lot of value from the pregame move. But like just even having one unit being able to like benefit from the crit 5s and getting crit mortal, it gets spicy real quick. They're basically the efficiency of bloodletters in a sense, right? But you know, I don't necessarily think you're going to see that happen very often, because most of the time you're going to be dumping your prayer on like either big block of bloodletters or big block of blood warriors. We talked briefly about the Bloodthrones. He definitely got a lot better, just mostly because like he's the only power level 2 priest in the army potentially, and that's very good. Because it lets you push those prayers in a high roll potentially, and it also lets you do a banish and what's it called? A banish and a prayer, the same, one model. So I think he's high value. Definitely a lot more reason to bring it. It also lost, obviously there's no more recursion, so it lost its ability to recur units, but that's okay. I think now it's like a much more efficient wizard and. Wizard prayer priest, and then the fact that it goes up to Ren 2 now. I don't know. I think it's one of them is probably pretty good in an army, especially since we're trying to farm passive BT Blood Tithe early. Bloodstoker. Now we're getting to the mortal half. By the way, I will caveat the mortal half just feels better than the demon half for the most part. The Bloodstoker still gives run and charge to a single Bloodbound unit, non-hero, so that hasn't changed at all. He's fine. Choreograph, still a meme. Don't even have Blood Hungry, still a meme. It'd be funny if they had Blood Hungry, because he would go, actually, is he a demon? No, so I don't even know if it would do anything. Oh my god. Yeah. The Mighty Little Khorne got a massive glow up, in the sense that, while the Soggy one is still more melee centric, the Soggy one doesn't have Blood Hungry, I believe, in its profile. So I'm guessing that will get fact. But adding +1 to wound roll for Bloodbound infantry, as a passive ability, is still good, and he still has a strike first mechanic. These two are very good. Having the +1 to wound is massive. You'll notice they lost. The battle formation still gets +1 to hit, but the ritualist no longer does either. It's also +1 to wound. So having 2 passive +1 to wound auras on the table is really nice. The Bloodthirster Creator has not changed at all since the last GHB. Sorry, since the last index. Still very, very useful. Probably going to still be taken because of the extra attacks and the rally. The Ritualist, hilariously, they changed the damage profile to not be one attack with D6 damage, which makes sense because they're like, oh right, crit mortal on that with D6 damage. That could be really annoying for people. It's still very good though. Like it's in fact arguably much more consistent damage profile. And now, like, you know, instead of +1 hit, it's +1 to wound prayer aura. That's still really nice. And the reason why it's nice is, right, the battle formation gives +1 to hit, but there's also, if you don't want to get the +1 to attack, you can get +1 to hit with the icon. So if you're really trying to, like, you're going to hit on 3s and 2s, then that's for sure. Score Grinder, got a rewrite in terms of its OC mechanic. Its ability, it used to only work against monsters. Now, sorry, its strike class mechanic, it used to only work against monsters. Now it rolls based on the OC score. It's got to be equal to or less, and that unit has strike class. And that's very good from my perspective. Like, I like because it makes it, like, you know, at least it works against like in OC1 targets, but you only 1/6 at a time. But it's still way better than it used to be. I don't know, you'll see a lot of in regular Khorne. You might see a lot of in the AOR, but in regular Khorne, you're probably not going to see very much of them. The Slaughter Priest changes is, like, I personally like a lot. I played having this blood sacrifice, we talked about generic passive blood type, but also getting, like, the extra ritual point lets you get to that speed to make sure you get the enhanced prayers on something like turn 2 and onwards. So I think, like, the Slaughter Priests are much better. And then the fact that they have an unbind as well is very nice, because you'll find yourself, it's actually, you lost the ability to auto unbind things with 2 blood types, so it is really important to have some form of unbind in Khorne, because you also lost the spell, the mortal wounds damage immunity from the shrine. So Slaughter Priests are just much more significant on the table to take. Obviously, they got rid of, this was, you know, the big story, they got rid of all the various Deathbringers. I just noticed that my edit on here is, I'm sorry guys, you probably can't read this very well. I just noticed that. Oh man, that's probably too small. I'm sorry. Let's try to fix it a little bit. I don't know why it's so different than the other one. There we go. I'm very sorry about that, guys. The new Deathbringer is quite good. It's just, you know, 3-up save, 6 wounds. Has the ability to turn off commands within 8 inches. On a 5-up, this is going to get factored probably once per command ability, because, like, right now it doesn't really, you could technically do it as many times as you have Deathbringers in range of a command. Clearly, I don't think that's what they want you to do intended. I'm pretty sure that's going to get factored. I think Old Town Throwdown and SoCal is already factored that way. Killer Kings is an insane mechanic. I was very shocked when I read it the first time, and then the second time, and then the third time. Basically, it lets you pick a Deathbringer that's in combat, and you roll 2d6 against every target, including manifestations. And it's, by the way, it doesn't say, is it enemy manifestations? It doesn't specify, it just says enemy in MF. I'm guessing it means enemy manifestation. We're going to assume that. You roll 2d6 for each of those targets. If you beat the the health characteristic of those units, one model from that unit is slain. And if it's a manifestation, automatically destroyed. So it's not a banish roll, so it circumvents, like, some of the banish mechanic immunity, which is not that much anymore, but it is quite good. It's just 2d6 2d6 roll. We had a practice game with where one of them killed, like, 2 pus boil blight lords. It's the 8 wound, like, mounted cavalry guys, just because you roll 2d6 on the 9 when it happens, like, a third of the time. It's just, like, incredibly efficient. It's just such a powerful mechanic against, like, high wound targets. Like, he's the Deathbringer is, like, a much more scary unit, and his attack profile is also very good. Like, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, around 1/3 damage with crit 2, and then you can get to crit mortal wounds eventually. It's quite good, right? And most of the time you're going to be +1 to wound, so too soon. Blood Warriors, massive upgrade. in the sense that they're much more tanky than they used to be. I mean, they lost their crit mortals, and they lost their special weapon profile. But, they gain crit auto wound, which is always really nice to have. Though you're playing an army that's probably +2 to wound. And eventually they get crit mortals with Blood Hungry, with a 3 wound attack profile, 3 attack profile, potentially 4 with some buffs, even potentially 5 with the Blood Secretor once per game. And then they get a 3-up save of a 5-up ward while contesting objective. They don't control. I don't know. Blood Warriors just seem incredibly efficient. And if you can get the Blood-drenched off on them, even if it's they, can't ignore positive modifiers to save, it's that's still very scary to swing. Because most of the time they're going to be +1 to wound, so it's 4s and 2s, and if you're playing the AOR, it's 3s and 2s, without using all attack, and then they're getting a 5. Yeah, their Blood Warriors are very, very shock infantry-like now. They feel very shock infantry. Big change. That's a big change for them. I don't know why they got rid of the special weapon rule. Especially since they couldn't do it for KO, but they could do it for Khorne, huh? Blood Reavers, I'm surprised they just haven't legended this unit, to be honest. They're fine. They're probably going to get used for Blood Tithe sacrifice reasons. Then we come to Mighty Skull Crushers. They're slightly more scarier than the demon ones, but man, do they feel bad. It's still in comparison to other units. Yes, they have a 2-up save, but they're so expensive. They did go up 2-inch movement, which is nice. I just don't know. Khorne doesn't strike me as an army that struggles for speed. Between all the run and charge on Blood Warriors, the cruel Taskmaster making them move forward. It doesn't strike me as an army that slacks for speed. It just wants things to consistently do damage because that's how the army wants to play. It needs to kill things to get Blood Tithe. And it also needs to die to get Blood-drenched from a design perspective. And Mighty Skull Crusher is kind of split in the face of both because they're not efficient at killing things and they don't efficiently die. So, yeah, take a hard pass on that. Wrathmongers, still fantastic for their points. I don't think you need them as much as you used to. They're still giving the +1 to hit, the +1 attack, if you're in combat. I just wish they kept their mortal wound trigger. Now that their changes is kind of you get to fight something with a enemy model. It's kind of pseudo Boucheron spell. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just it's not interesting. It's not that interesting. They're still fantastic for their points though, and they do slap a lot. I mean, eventually you get crit mortal on them. Same thing as a Blood Warrior block. I just don't necessarily think you need them as much now because of when you didn't have crit mortal, you were basically pushing for extra attacks because of the extra because that was the way you had volume of attacks did more damage, right? But now you can get crit mortal consistently. It doesn't feel as necessarily it feels probably overkill most of the time to have the extra attack from them. They're still good. I still think people play them or you should take them. I don't necessarily know they're not an auto. I don't feel like they're as much as an auto take they used to be. Skull Reapers, guess what, guys? They're no longer OC1. Congratulations, Games Workshop, you did it. You fixed Skull Reapers. No, you didn't. But you did at least fix one of the probably dumbest part of their rule. I do like their +8 to a combat OC score while they're in combat. I wish it also triggered if they killed something until the end of the turn, because most of the time Skull Reapers should not be in combat because they hit like freight trains, right? So a 10-man unit with Blood-drenched is very terrifying for a lot of people because it's going to be 3s and 2s, Ren 1, flat 2 damage, but it's also crit mortal. This unit should not be in combat. They're also much speedier now because, between the Bloodstoker and the Taskmaster, D6-inch movement plus run and charge, this unit can go across the board, right? They're still very expensive. I think they're just, they're significantly more annoying for your opponents to deal with because their OC isn't terrible now. Yeah, I don't know. I feel this Patrol Skull things, which are also triggered off killing things, not just being in combat. Talked about the manifestations. Little terrain feature change. The terrain feature doesn't remove manifestations anymore. Sorry, it doesn't I'm sorry. That's what it does now. It removes manifestation. It gets you a free, basically, D3 banish rolls attempts. I wish this wasn't a banish moral attempt, because you can't choose to do a banish with a priest and then do a hatred of sorcery in the same endless spell. I can understand why they did it. And this is one of the ways to generate passive, like Blood Tithe. But most opponents are not going to throw manifestations within 18 inches of this thing if they can avoid it, right? And it's nice to have, but it's not great. Yeah, it's okay. The fact that you still keep it for the +1 enchanting roll, but it lost its ability to protect you from spells, like in terms of the 5-up ignore. So it's a lot less interesting on the table now. It probably also becomes a liability, since it's a pretty big piece of terrain that your opponent can charge to get like value on points. I don't know. It's not as interesting as it used to. It's not as quite as good as it used to be. It's just, free terrain shouldn't be super significant, but it's always weird to me that Khorne like isn't just having a built-in immunity to like spells. Like, for fucking sake, KO no chemist provides more defensive mechanics against spells and prayers than Khorne gets. Why? Like, why? Technology trumps God of Warfare who hates magic. It's apparently. And now we're getting to the fucking problem child of this book. At the time of recording this video, I'm going to make this disclaimer. There has been no FAQ, no nerfs, officially almost no points either. But I can tell you that this Army Renown is not long for the world. Full disclosure, I've played a lot of games with this Army Renown since the book got leaked, with some leaked points. You could probably increase the point cost of everything by 20% in this army and it's still broken. You could increase it 30% and it's still broken, and I'll go over why. This army should not be in the game. It should be legended. Now, I would like Games Workshop to legend this thing after I win a GT with it, because I did have to buy 11 skull grinders for this. So, Games Workshop, if you're listening, I'm going to be petty with this. No, like, seriously, this army is incredibly stupid. It's really cool. Like, the thing is, like, it's such a cool concept of an army, and hobbyists will do fantastic jobs with it. But it is an incredibly dumb army rules-wise. It's so oppressively non-enjoyable for your opponents to play against. I'll give you a breakdown of like what the list looks like, at least the ones I've been playtesting. It has a Mighty Lord of Khorne, the new one, the one in the book here, not the Saki one. It has 2 Slaughter Priests. It has 1 Bloodthirster. It has 11 Skull Grinders, and it has 3 Deathbringers. Based on the league points, that is 2,000 points on the nose. So for raw math, that's 18 models. That's 109 points. And you're probably guessing, well, they only move 5 inches. Why is that scary? Like, that's not that many models. Okay. We're going to go into where it gets crazy. We'll go back to the Murder One trophies in a bit. Firstly, everything in this army gets a 4-up ward. So most of the units in here are 3-up save and now have a 4-up ward. If you do raw math in terms of what the effective wounds of that army is, it's close to 200 because of the wards. And then you add the hate-fueled killer mechanic. Anytime one of them dies, not even dies. Anytime one of them gets to be 0 wounds, you roll on a dice. On a 5-up, they come back to life with 1 wound left. They are not destroyed, meaning they do not trigger battle tactics. Since they are also not destroyed, they don't count towards the replacement limit. Now, Old Town Throwdown is fact that this only is able to ever trigger once per characters. I 100% agree. Will this fundamentally fix this army? Fuck no. This ability should not even be in this AOR. Imagine this. You're playing against an MSU army of characters. if I keep 4 or 5 characters base to base to each other, you cannot avoid engaging all of them. And since they're 4 to 5 distinct units, you cannot, if like your big centralized beat stick unit has to find ways to split attacks to try to maximize chewing through a 3-up save, 4-up ward. And then even if you do that correctly, they might still live on a 5-up. Now, before the Old Town Throwdown, I had a game where I played the new KO against this AOR. I had a guy come back 3 times in the same sequence, combat phase sequence. Literally, I kill him, roll a 5-up. Kill him again, roll a 5-up. Kill him again, roll a 5-up. It's not that unrealistic, guys. A 5-up is a 33% chance. Doing it twice in a row means 33 to the power of 2. 33% to the power of 2. I believe that's like something like 18% or 16% chance or something. Like it's 1 in 6, right? Or something the math ends up going. I'm probably going to be wrong, but like it's pretty close to that. So like it's not that unlikely that can happen, you know. And thankfully now, even if a lot of the practice game I've played while playing myself this army is with the assumption that they can only do it once, like using the other. But even if they just do it once, because it's an MSU style army, and your opponents are not MSU typically, or at least MSU to that level of MSU, they only get 1, maybe 2 activation into your unit, into your heroes. If it's only 1 activation and that guy doesn't die, it's as if it did nothing. And what gets worse about this is that they hit very hard. Legendary Slayer gives them crit mortal. They also ruled that Old Town Throwdown, and I'm guessing that's how Games Workshop is going to rule too, that Blood Hungry is not a weapon profile, meaning that things that turn off weapon abilities do not work against it. So you get to keep crit mortal, even if your opponent turns off weapon abilities. These are all guys. Skull Grinders and Deathbringers are 4 attacks each. Deathbringers are 3s and 3s, Ren 1, flat 3 damage. Add crit mortal to that means 3 mortal wounds every time it rolls a 6. Then Skull Grinders are 4 attacks, 4s and 2s, Ren 1, 3 damage. Same thing. Roll 1 and 6, that's 3 mortal wounds. Now, on face value, like you're like, well, it's only 4 attacks each. Can't be that bad. Well, you can still take a Bloodsecrator, right? And you get +1 attack to the entire army once per game. That's pretty good. It's not game-breaking. What if I told you there was an artifact in this AOR that gave you table-wide D3 extra attack every combat phase? It's called the Scarring Blade. Any combat phase, inflict D3 mortal damage, not damage, mortal damage, meaning you still get your 4-up ward save against it. For the rest of the turn, add X to the attack characteristic of value weapons used by friendly Gorechosen Champions units. Notice no range, just that. Where X is equal to the amount of mortal damage inflicted. Not taken, inflicted. Meaning, if you roll 3 and I ward 2 of them, it's still 3 attacks. For the rest of the battle, this unit can now use the Hate Field Killers, which is the 5-up come back to life, and cannot be healed. That sounds really bad, right? Oh, it can't be healed, it can't be 5. It has a 4-up fucking ward. Like, on a 6-wound platform. Most of the time, you're going to get to use this 2 to 4 times. If nobody can get to the character, aka a Bloodsecrator, or a Slaughter Priest, hiding in the terrain feature, because AOR still get the terrain feature per the FAQ, you cannot, like, this thing just has massive value. Like, you're giving 3, like, getting these guys up to 7 attacks each is absolute nuttiness. You could technically get them to 8 attack each with the Bloodsecrator once per game. Like, they do so much damage. The upsides are incredible. So they're incredibly tanky, massive upside damage. One of the practice game I played, there was roughly about 1,200 points of FEC fighting 3 of them. 3 Deathbringers. I did not kill a second one. Now, granted, FEC has trouble killing things with a 3-up save, but a 3-up save, a 4-up ward, and a 5-up comeback, yeah, not going to happen. What gets even more insult to injury is how the GHB plays. Since they're all characters, single model units, they benefit from obscuring way better than units can, because they don't have to be wholly. They don't just have to be within 1 inch of any obscuring, and all of a sudden they're immune to obscuring. Oh, you turn an objective into obscuring. Now it's really easy to hide my units on top of that. Oh, I'm wounded. You managed to kill trigger hate fuel killer on one, but he's still around. Oh, I'm just gonna pop the healing off this place of power, and then heal all my characters 2 wounds each. I could roll 1, but I still get a 4 board against it. So coin toss. Right? Like, it's fucking insanity. It's just like, this army, played correctly, is obscene. And I think a lot of people are like, well, it's 18 models. It will struggle in wide mission against wide state, armies that benefit from that. I played against Sylvaneth 3 times on wide state missions. Sylvaneth can't clear 3 of these dudes on the point. And every time Alario or whatever unit you're throwing into these 3 dudes will probably pick up whatever your big target you put into them. That's a fundamental issue of the math trading is so bad. It's just they're hard to kill. They hit like trucks. And the best player I played against, Jacob Brendan, played Slanesh and had Sigvald and had Twin Soul spam. Sigvald managed to kill 4 characters before he died, and that's with him taking a double. I still won that game on a white state, on the most favorable mission that Jacob could pick, because even though I lost half my heroes, I tabled Jacob's list. That's insane. He also managed to kill the Scarring Braid on the bottom of 1, meaning that I didn't even have the extra attacks for the rest of the game, because I had it on the Bloodsecrator and I made a mistake. And I still tabled him. This army is insane. You need to legend it. Only after I win a GT with it, though, please. And if this wasn't bad enough, by the way, you get to pick another hero in the army to gain an artifact. Oh, good. The Warmonger icon is fantastic. Not only does that guy once per game get strike first, but he gives strike first to D3 other friendly heroes around him. Oh, I put this guy with 4 other dudes on this far off objectives on the white state mission, and you're like, cool, that's your weak flank. I'm gonna slam into it. Great, let me pop that artifact first, so I get to resolve all my attacks first. Oh, and also I pop Scarring Braid on the other side of the table, and I'm plus D3 attacks. Oh, and if I feel like it, I'll pop the Bloodsecrator icon too, so now I'm D3 plus 1 attack, and I strike first potentially on every one of them. And I get to just resolve all the damage before you get to swing. What the fuck do you do? It doesn't you're it's not even really that hard. We're not even talking about there's all these coin these dice roll you have to make all these results insane. No, it's not even that high. It's not even that hard. It's just it's very much autopilot. And then the Mighty Lord of Khorne also gives strike first during your turn to somebody else. So potentially you can have a turn where you have 5 characters striking first with all these extra attacks. It gets pretty wacky very fast. The heroic trait, add 20 to a unit score while it's in combat, is also very good. It lets you put that on a character that's like I said, on the weak flank, between the strike first blade and that on the weak flank. You can hold down an objective on a far off flank that you're not trying to focus on for a very, very long amount of time. So because when they come back from death on the hate-filled killer, as long as he's in combat, he's OC 20, you can hold down that objective in defense for a very, very long time. And then additionally, the prayers are very, very, very good in this faction. Skin of Brass is even though that's the unlimited prayer, is not the most significant one, but it is actually very good. It allows you to ignore Ren 1 on 1 unit of character, 1 character, and if you roll on an 8, you get to pick another eligible character. It's pretty good. It matters when your opponents are having reserve units in the mid game that can try to get into the guy with the Scarring Braid. Like I said, I put the Scarring Braid on the Bloodsecrator. I typically hide him in area terrain and obscuring. And then if you can give him -1 save, then all of a sudden he's very tanky. So it requires a lot of effort, especially since he's a 4-board, and he can't come back from life, but he probably used a Scarring Braid at that point, but he's still super tanky. He's a 3-up save profile. So it gets problematic too. And if my opponent has a lot of like reserve mechanic, I can also just throw him forward with the rest of the army. So if you try to get to him, you're going to have to engage every character as well. And the way the Scarring Blade works too, and this is obviously something I think Games Workshop needs to just delete or like rectify. It should work off wounds inflicted. Wounds taken, not wounds inflicted. And also, technically, it still works if he dies from it. Like, it doesn't just go away because he died. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, unless like I misunderstand the core rule of that, I think it still triggers when he dies. So it's just like, it's super obnoxious, and it just needs to be the Scarring Blade needs to be toned down to either be like a certain range, not table wide. Like maybe they intended for it to be combat range of that character. Definitely what it sounds like based on the description. But like that's not what it does right now, and that's probably the thing. The second prayer is basically we lost Meteor, but this AOR has Meteor. It does, you roll 8 dice on a 4-up. It does a mortal wound. If you go roll it on an 8, if you cast it on an 8-up, it's on the 3-up. It's really good. Like that's the one thing like people don't realize too much. That's a very good ability to have because you're playing an MSU character army. If you can basically finish off anything in the hero phase through mortal wounds, and it frees up from moving and charging, like it gets really wacky very fast. And that's not even the only player they have that does mortal wounds in the hero phase. They have Eruption of Epoxy, which is just does d6 mortal wounds to a target, and then if that target dies, and everything in combat range, friendly and enemy, takes d3 mortal wounds within 6 inches. Sorry, not combat, within 6 inches. And if you roll it on an 8, it's d6 mortal damage. This entire army is a 4-up ward. Like, it doesn't care about that roll. Like, you're probably never going for the 8 roll on it, but the fact that you get to do the Meteor, or the Epoxy first and then the Meteor, you can pick up something that's in combat, or 2 things that you're in combat with in the hero phase, freeing up like characters to do fights. And it's also really hard to lock down all these characters because they're not units, right? So their footprint of 3-inch engagement is much smaller than like a unit. I think I did the raw math, basically, and so my version is I'm doing the Skull Grinder heavy version because I think they're more efficient. If you do the Deathbringer version, you get 2 less Skull Grinders, so you get 2 less models. But don't get me wrong, Deathbringers are like, you know, very, very good. But the Skull Grinders, at least you get like more efficiency. Like still, like I believe 2 Deathbringer is the equivalent of, in terms of point efficiency, is better than 5 Chosen, which is a comparative math I did for fun and to try to just like break down how badly designed this AOR is. It has less output, of course, but it has like something like 30% less output, but like 100% more durability. So it's like they're just more point efficient than 5 Chosen. So that's enough for this AOR. Games Workshop, you probably need to go back to the drawing board of this. Well, after I win a GT with it. It's so good. It's so, you know, for me personally, as a guy who played like 14 Grimrafts, like having like, which 14 Grimraft was a meme. It was fun and it's a meme. This is not a meme. This is really good on the table, like way too good. And then the Belfort Lord, which is effectively the demon version of the AOR. It's just like you bring 4 Bloodthirsters, and I know the video now is at like 1 hour and 3 minutes, so I'm probably gonna take a pause here. But this AOR is not great in comparison to the previous one. It's not bad either. It's just not great in comparison. I will let somebody. I'll go over it. If somebody takes it to a GT and wins with it, chops to you, buddy. Like, it's just like it's not even comparable between the 2 AOR. Yeah, I hope this video was instructive, helpful. I look forward to commentaries, and obviously you can tell me I'm wrong. And I'm hoping by the time they publish like some changes to this AOR, it's just no longer like, look guys, point adjustments isn't going to do much to this. It has to be a complete rewrite. Like, you can make this 300 points more, and all I do is lose 3 characters, and it's still an insane army. Like, that's the issue. It's so insanely effective. You just need to like tone, like I said, probably start with the Scarring Blade, make it a range instead of table wide. The Warmonger icon is probably fine, but it's still like, fundamentally, it's the reason why this is really good is because of the combination of the Scarring Blade and that. It's just too powerful. Definitely, I think Hate Fuel Killer should not be in the AOR at all. You should probably remove that ability entirely, or have it like do something else, like, or at least clarify that it's only once per game, or because right now it's not. But I'm sure that's the first fact change. The 4-up ward probably should have been a 5-up ward. Like 4-up ward is just insane. Like if you wanted to make it like 4-up ward equivalent, make it a 5-up ward that doesn't get modified, cannot be modified or removed. Like if that's what you're looking for, but like it should not be a 4-up ward. And yeah, the crit mortal is probably a little too much, but I honestly don't think that this is like it's not. The crit mortals is fine. It's once again, it's this artifact that makes it problematic. Anyway, all right, that's enough. I'm getting off my pulpit. Plus, I'm getting hungry. All right, bye guys. Thanks for watching.